Hey everyone, and welcome back to today's Explainer. We're diving into a really fascinating showdown over one of the absolute most fundamental problems that literally every society faces. It's not just about what to make, but how to actually make it. It's the ultimate economic choice of technique. So how should an economy actually make things? This right here, this is the core dilemma. Because as we know, our global and national resources are fundamentally limited, right? Economies can't just produce things randomly or however they feel like on any given Tuesday. They have to choose a very specific method or technique of production to get a specified amount of goods. It's a carefully calculated decision, and it's a problem of choice that sits right at the very heart of basic economics. All right, let's get right into it. Section 1. The contenders, labor versus capital. Coming in first, we have our first contender, the labor-intensive technique. Now, this one is exactly what it sounds like. It's a method of production that leans incredibly heavily on human effort. To produce a specific amount of output, this technique relies on a massive workforce. We're talking about using far more labor and much less capital, things like heavy machinery. It's all about people power. Now, on the other side of the ring, we've got the capital-intensive technique, which totally flips the script. This method prioritizes machines, advanced technology, and financial capital to produce that exact same quantity of output. So it relies heavily on capital and significantly less on human labor. Basically, machines take the front seat here. Moving on to Section 2, the arena, the cotton cloth battle. Okay, so picture this. Imagine an economy needs to produce cotton cloth. They have a very distinct choice to make. Going the labor-intensive route means using manual hand looms, which requires rows and rows of skilled human workers operating them entirely by hand. On the flip side, the capital-intensive route uses automatic power looms. Now, this requires a massive upfront investment in complex machinery, but vastly fewer workers to run it. Both paths give you cotton cloth in the end, so who wins? Let's look at Section 3, Determinants of Choice, the judge's scorecard. An economy doesn't just, flip a coin to decide this. The whole decision boils down to two absolutely crucial determinants. Number one is the level of technical knowledge available, and number two is the relative availability of different resources. First up, assessing technical knowledge. This explains a lot about why different economies use completely different techniques. An economy's options are actually strictly limited by what it knows how to do. Like, if a society hasn't yet acquired the technical know-how to build or even operate automatic power looms, well, the capital-intensive choice isn't even on the table for them. They're locked into the techniques that their current knowledge base actually supports. But let's assume the knowledge is there. Then we move to the second, and honestly, arguably the most important determining factor, the relative availability of resources. An economy has to take a hard look at what it has in abundance and what's scarce. The golden rule here, choose the production technique that utilizes your most abundant resource. Why? Because it's literally the most efficient and practical way to economize those limited resources for the best possible use. It just makes the most sense. Which brings us to Section 4, the champion's crown, real-world winners. When you look at the real world, labor surplus economies naturally make way more use of labor-intensive techniques compared to labor-scarce economies. Take a country like India, for example. With a massive population and a huge abundance of workers, it makes perfect economic sense to crown the labor-intensive technique as their champion. They naturally lean towards heavily staffed setups because, at the end of the day, human capital is their most readily available resource. But, all of this leaves us with a massive, looming question. As global technology rapidly advances and automation becomes more and more universally accessible, will traditionally labor surplus economies be forced to eventually abandon their winning technique? Think about it. If power looms become cheaper than employing thousands of workers, how does a society actually reallocate all of that human effort? It's a really profound economic choice that every growing nation is eventually going to have to face. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you some great food for thought.